to take a pause here to bring on a special guest now to talk about from Intel. Okay, this used to be publicly traded. So let's hear the story from Mobileye. Kris Tuttle from IPO Canada and SPACfest. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ben. A couple thoughts on Mobileye this morning. They are, investors are excited about the IPO for a couple reasons. Number one, Intel bought this company for, $15 billion and change a few years ago. It was a public company. They are, IPOing it here just a little bit above. It turns out they priced at 21, just $1 above the range. So it's, just slightly more than they paid for it. And obviously the company's much bigger, much further along. There's nobody even close to them in the automated driving, driver assisted technology space. They're basically the supplier to, just about every OEM that exists. So, they're positioned really well at this sort of inflection point of combination of EVs and driver assist and safety. There's two interesting side points, I think, that I'm watching carefully, which is this is a very low float IPO. One, not that many shares are part of the offering, but also about 40% of the offering is being taken up by funds and inside investors. So what we have here is it's late October. A lot of institutions are underwater, and it's a little like, GME is to retail investors what Mobileye might be for institutions, because you can make up a few points of performance here by buying, owning, and accumulating Mobileye through year end. Because with this kind of float, I mean, they can mark this price up to wherever they want it to be. If you put a 10x multiple on it, you certainly argue that, fair value is, at least $25 a share up from the 21. But, again, this company's around a long time, tons of IP, tons of business momentum, $2 billion, let's call it, in forward revenue, turning profitable. So, institutions, I think, can really embrace this. And with the low float, we'll see where it opens today, but I certainly am looking to establish some position in it right off the bat. And then, in these markets, obviously anything can happen on an intraday or day-to-day basis. But I think institutions have got this at the top of their list for this is a name we can get into. It's liquid enough, but still has a very small float. You'd be crazy to short it. And then the last little tiny point, which I can't prove yet, but you all are familiar with the semiconductor, kind of war we have going on with China right now. Mobileye is headquartered in Israel. So in terms of supplying semiconductors and chips to what is a very big market for automated driving, it's still a controlled company by Intel, so I'm not a lawyer, but not only is Mobileye already positioned in every OEM out there, they may have some, potential loophole capability to continue to supply the Chinese EV OEMs without having to worry about violating sanctions and things like that. So I'll leave it on that, with respect to Mobileye, but that's one we'll be clearly following closely through the end of the year.
Cool. Yeah, I remember when Mobileye was publicly traded last time, and I don't remember if I ever got into it, but I remember there was a lot of hype around it because I actually had, to your point about this could be like the institution's GME, I actually had a friend who worked as just like a broker, like someone who does like trades and manages like people's portfolios at Citigroup. And he called me up one day. He's like, Ben, you got to buy Mobileye. And I thought, this is really weird. Why is this like institutional guy kind of like calling me and saying, you got to buy Mobileye. It's the hottest thing. Right. So that was really interesting. I don't know if you ever got into it.
2000 and, I was by mistake, I clicked on the wrong IPO deck this morning, and I have the one we posted in 2014. But like that was 2014. Yeah. That was when, EVs and self-driving, like, that was some sort of, moonshot or trip to Mars. I mean, now, this is this is just completely mainstream. And, again, from an institutional standpoint, they are locked and loaded on a trend which is only up and to the right for the next 5 years, 10 years.
Cool.
And, one last one on Mobileye, which is very different than Tesla, is Mobileye serves the spectrum. So all the OEMs have the little car, the middle car, the big car. We all know how that works, right? 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever. And, they want a system where they can put in a level 2, let's call it level 2, 3 in the cheap car, level 3, 4 in the mid-size car, level 4, 4.5, 5 in the high-priced car. So Mobileye's got like that whole waterfront of offerings that allow any OEM to configure and instrument their cars or trucks or whatever exactly how they want to and meet those consumer price points. So it's not like, hey, you want the Tesla software, it's whatever it is, 10 or 15 grand, that's it. It's not like I want the 2 grand, the 5 grand, the 10 grand. So I think Mobileye, it's obviously there's risk to any story, but I think institutions are definitely looking at this as a really safe name they're all going to want in their portfolio through the end of December, and they can just basically they can buy themselves a few percentage points of performance in a market that has been just miserable for them this year.
So just a couple quick things. Also, am I right in saying Intel is retaining 95% of the shares? Only 5% are going to be traded. Is that right?
That is correct. There are 810 million shares outstanding. There are 41 million shares in the deal. Intel maintains a huge stake. They definitely don't want. There's a couple. There's some T's and C's in the relationship. But Intel wants to maintain a high level of ownership and control. I don't know what, one of the things we put in our note is it's bizarre, but the real relationship that Mobileye has with a semi partner is ST Micro. They don't have any real relationship with Intel on the product side. So it's basically all ST Micro. ST Micro, of course, uses TSMC. But we're going to have to watch that space to figure out what Intel is really, because there's no near-term plan for Mobileye to be really integrated with Intel at all. So at this point, Intel is more of a financial owner, than a real technology partner anyway.
Last question for you. How are you going to play this? You can see, I put it up on the screen. This is a level 2. Now, these are not, I notice when stocks halt or they're not trading yet, like these are not accurate necessarily, but you can see all these bids above 21 up to $33 right now is a bid. And really, again, that means nothing.
I'm looking at 27, 15 to 19 on my screen right now.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean anything yet, but how are you going to play this? Like if this opens up $25 to $30, because I'd like to play this, but I'd like to buy it at 21, and I guess that's not going to happen probably today. So
well, you never know. IPO markets have their own, especially first days can be really interesting. You just have to watch. As there's a lot of flippers. So you'll have some flipper volume that may come in and possibly push the price down from the open. But my way of looking at this is I will probably buy some small starter position, at some point in the morning after it opens. Because like I said, it's got this kind of crazy low float, just supply and demand on this thing are just completely out of whack. So, I'll be, playing it with
do you have a limit? Like you say you want to buy it in the morning, but like, do you have an upper limit where you wouldn't buy it if it opens too high or it doesn't reach a certain price?
35 would be pretty insane, probably. I'm not uncomfortable with 27, but again, position size, right? Price informs the position size. So,
right.
if it opens at 27, I'll watch it, right? You'll see how it's ticking, and you'll just kind of watch the price and volume action. And pick a spot, maybe just start a position. Sometimes I use ladder limit orders where it's like, I'll buy a certain amount of stock at specific prices I happen to be around this morning. So hopefully it'll open while I'm still at my screen. But yeah, it's, you also can be patient and watch how this thing performs. We're in a market that I think is still, we've got a Fed meeting coming up next week, I think it is. But anyway, it's not a market. And, I heard your commentary on Microsoft, and but I'm not saying this, but the thought that jumped into my mind is like our PC's the new barbecue grill, COVID monster buying of new PCs, laptops.
It could be. It came to that. I thought about that maybe there was, huge demand because of COVID. Now COVID's over. But, I'm thinking as far as Apple, they sell Mac desktops as well and laptops. I don't know. Maybe those are taking a hit at this point too, is what my thought was as far as Apple goes. So in any case, where can people, you got IPO Candy. You haven't run this article actually, right? You posted on MobileEye
IPO Candy. The MobileEye note is, I believe it's public. You don't need to be a subscriber or anything. So that's at IPOcandy.com. We will, be following up on MobileEye, and we'll be, of course, posting in StoryTrading, any updates and stuff that people might be interested in. And, so we'll keep you posted as we go through the next, right through to year end. I think this is going to be an interesting name to focus on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kris. That's again, IPOcandy.com if you want to follow Kris's work there. And you can also join us and collaborate with him in our story trading community. Thank you, Kris.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.